Hey, what's up? Hello, I hope you all are doing well. Now that it's April, that means I can make my first quarterly wrap up of 2023, and here we are in quarter two, finally. So in quarter one, I didn't read nearly as many books as I was hoping to. In fact, I started one even that I didn't finish, which is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Hopefully I will be able to return to that soon since I'm really enjoying the audiobook. But I did manage to read 5 books, 2 of which are book club books, and I can't wait to tell you about them. So here is everything I read in the first quarter. The first 2 are Cold Clay and Mirror Lake, both by Juno Black. Juno Black is a pen name. These books are actually written by a pair of ladies, and they use this name as their pseudonym. These are a cozy mystery series where they set them in Shady Hollow, which is a tiny woodland town, and all of the characters are woodland animals. I was really excited having found these books, but definitely have found them over the course of reading them so far to be wanting a little bit. I guess I had too high expectations of cozy mysteries and have just come away with them slightly disappointed. But the thing that I do like about them is that there will be 4 when the next one is published, and each one of them is set during a different season of the year. So Cold Clay took place during the harvest season, the fall harvest, and it really dug into family drama and poisoning and all the possibilities that can happen to you when you're a large forest creature running away from your marriage. That's probably a sentence not a lot of us have thought about before. Mirror Lake I much preferred. It seemed to be set in November, in like election season, kind of heading into December. There is an election that takes place in the book, and in this like pre-winter time. I appreciated this book not only because of that season, but also because this book chose to demonstrate how insidious the act of gaslighting really is. The book doesn't address it in like a deeply meaningful way, but this light touch that it does on it and making it a major plot point shows how bad things can turn when people are made to feel like they're crazy when they are in fact telling the truth. In short, this book is another great reason to believe women. And as I know I've said in previous videos, these 2 have actually been easier to read than the first book, Shady Hollow, and that is because this perspective is no longer shifting with every single sentence, and the perspective actually shifts pretty much every chapter or at different points within the chapter as opposed to each sentence or each paragraph, which I found very jarring. The mysteries are starting to get a little bit more involved, they're starting to get a little bit more dangerous, which is hard to pull off with the type of breezy writing that's being done, but they're managing it okay. And I will definitely look forward to reading the 4th book, Twilight Falls, which is set in the springtime, when that comes out this fall. And maybe someday I will come across a copy of like the Christmas novella that was also written, called Evergreen Chase. And I just feel like now that I've committed to this series, even though I want it to be better than it is, I feel like I need to read them all. They're not going to be my favorite thing, but now that I'm in it, I have to stay in it, and I don't really have like a rationale for that makes sense, but we're just sticking with this storyline. And speaking of sticking with things, in January I listened to the 2nd, but 3rd for me because I read them out of order, of the STEMinist novellas by Ali Hazelwood called Stuck With You. These are available in print now in a bind-up called Love to Loathe You, and it follows 3 best friends who are all accomplished women in different areas of STEM, and it takes you through the origin stories of each of their relationships, which, surprise surprise, all have the hate to love romance trope in them. I liked Stuck With You a little bit less than the others, in part because I've listened to them all back to back and I kind of got, romance trope fatigue. The problem that creates nearly all the drama in romance novels is that there is an often purposeful miscommunication, and this book has that in spades, plus some grudge holding, plus being stuck in an elevator. And I think of all the 3 novellas in this series, the other 2 show a lot more skill at pulling that off and managing the miscommunication problem more naturally. And because this one doesn't have that level of skill to it, it made it a little bit less interesting to me. The library book club pick for February was Who is Vera Kelly, which follows the traumatic childhood and sort of like the young adulthood transition of a girl called Vera Kelly who eventually ends up taking a role as a spy with the CIA in the 1960s, and for her assignment is stationed in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The tone of this book, as I said in my last video, is particularly detached. especially in the audio, and it serves the plot really well. It's not disaffected in the way that like the disaffected millennial fiction of My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh might be, but the timeline also bounces that tone between Vera's past, her very traumatic past, and her current situation in Argentina as she undertakes her assignment and spends hours and hours listening to the recordings of having bugged different politicians' offices in the city, and her tone hardly changes throughout. She has this very dry, just, this is what I'm doing, and I don't really know what I'm going to do with my life because I've never had an opportunity to really think about it, and I've had dreams, but there's really no like dream of things coming true, so what's the situation here? I don't know, just gonna keep moving forward as best I can. I never really got attached to Vera. Like, this book was okay. I don't really know what else I wanted out of it, but there are a few characters in the book that you can kind of form a little bit of attachment to, or they at least spark your interest a little bit more due to them having just more personality. And it's certainly a book that encouraged you to learn about that specific time period and that particular drama happening in Argentina. And if you're interested in watching how the United States has time and time again engineered war and conflicts in other parts of the world for their own gain, this is a book to check out. If you don't believe that that has happened ever, this is a book for you to check out. And speaking of really interesting time periods to read about, I next listened to The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. And this was our book club pick for March, and I think this is actually my first 5-star book of the year. If you've followed our channel for a while, you know that both Bex and I enjoy the writing of Victoria Hislop, who is the author of The Sunrise, which is set in Cyprus in the 1960s and 1970s, leading up to the 1974 coup by some Greek military, and then a couple days later, the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. And this book, The Island of Missing Trees, is set in that same time period, and it's actually become one that I'm very much interested in. This book follows the story of a teenage girl called Ada in London in the late 2010s, and her family has been very clearly shaped by the conflict in Cyprus. The narration bounces between a third-person perspective of Ada, her mother, her father, and a seemingly omniscient first perspective point of view of a very well-connected fig tree who goes unnamed for most of the book. Now, I was just talking about Shady Hollow and all of that series earlier where all of the characters are woodland creatures. I have not previously read a book where the tree was the narrator with a lot to say about what was going on in the actual plot, but that really worked well for this story. It gave context to what was going on around the human characters, and I think reminded us that while humans seem to believe that we are the supreme species that matter above all else, there are all kinds of other organisms and plants and animals out there that are just as important, especially if humans are really authentically interested in preserving our existence. We need to stop prioritizing ourselves and start prioritizing maybe some of the other things that exist around us. So major points for the fig tree character. I highly recommend this book. Overwhelmingly, everyone in my book club had praise for every aspect of this story, particularly the fig tree and also Ada's aunt, who plays a significant role in the book, and not to mention an entire B-plot about making your voice heard and the virality of the internet. All of that said, those are the books that I read in the first quarter of 2023. If you have read any of those or have thoughts about them, I would love to chat with you more about it in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having lovely weeks and lovely lives. Everything that you want to know about us is, of course, in the description, and we'll see you very soon.